What's going on, everybody? The world's a better place because you are here to join us. My name is Matt Brown, and I am the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. And we have here the college football playoff, the Final Four, the semifinals to the national championship have been decided. Who's
Mhm.
going to the national championship? Is it is it Texas and Ohio State, or Penn State and Notre Dame? Me and Ryan will tell you exactly what happens here in this productive conversation previewing the college football playoff semifinals. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, Matt? Excited to be back talking some football.
Awesome. I'm excited to do the same as you, but we're here, Ryan. Four teams left, four schools left, four prominent schools, four schools with a big reputation in football, very much football schools. And now we're here. Thursday night, the 9th, will be the official Orange Bowl, and it'll be seventh ranked Notre Dame taking on sixth ranked Penn State out in Miami. And then we have the Cotton Bowl, Ohio State, the eighth ranked Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the fifth ranked Texas Longhorns in Dallas, Texas.
hmm
So, first, these four teams as a whole, how are you feeling? You feel
I
they
mean,
are deserving of it? These are the true best four schools left in the nation in college football, the FBS. What do you say?
yeah, 100%. I would say that these are the four best. I can't name a single team I think would be a better fit for this Final Four. Both from the people who made the playoffs, like the 12 other or the rest of the 12 team field, um, and of course from the people who didn't even make the 12 team field. I don't think there's any argument. Frankly, by winning the game, every single team at this point has won at least a game in the playoffs, if not two. So any team in this situation, in my opinion, will have earned it. Um, if we, the last round of games were tough for some. Like I said, Texas had a heck of a road to get here, almost lost it. Even Penn had a bit of a, had a bit of a, um, had a bit of competition. And then, of course, Notre Dame had to beat Georgia and
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State had to beat an undefeated previously Oregon team. So I think everybody definitely bolstered their claim to be the best four in college football last week if they hadn't done so already, and many of them already have, in my opinion. But
I like that, Ryan. Good stuff there. So why don't we just get into it right now?
hmm
Let's talk about these two matchups first. You have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Pennsylvania State University Nittany Lions.
hmm
As I mentioned in the Orange Bowl at Miami, what a tale of two seasons with these schools. Notre Dame was coasting. Then they have that loss to Northern Illinois, who, by the way, just made the Mountain West today, officially
yep,
inducted. So big move there. And Notre Dame hasn't lost a beat since. Penn State, an interesting ride being in the Big Ten, and they continued their impressive season throughout. Falling short to Oregon in the Big Ten championship, but then bounced back again with easy wins against SMU and Boise State. Interesting, we have the up and coming college coach Martin Freeman, and then we have Penn State coach who's been known to blow big games as well, but yet he's still in this position. Talk to me about this matchup that'll take place on Thursday night, 7:30 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, one quick thing. I wouldn't call the Boise State a blowout or an easy win for Penn. They were literally a touchdown behind. But I will say this, that Penn, be- your sentiment is correct. Everyone kind of sees Penn as having the easiest ride so far in the playoffs, and they did absolutely destroy SMU. Again, you could argue that they're just that much better than SMU, but that seems to be that people are arguing the other way, which is that SMU just is that bad. But anyway, not the point. Point is, they definitely have the most to prove. Beating Georgia alone, Marcus Freeman, new coach already has, basically already has kind of credentials for this year. If they lose, it's still going to be considered a big win for the season. You know what I mean? Like, or
Yeah.
a big season for them, right? They got a
A
big season.
successful one. Yeah.
Yeah, first time out. So I think that that's something to look at is the way that they play. I don't know that it will change anything in terms of how Freeman wants to play, but he definitely is kind of coaching on the borrowed time. If that makes sense, like he knows that he's already done his job. Whereas at Penn State, you don't have that same dynamic. You actually have the opposite dynamic, as you pointed out. This is not the first time they've had a good team, but Coach Franklin has lost these big games before. And so he probably needs to win this game to really solidify himself as like a top tier coach. But I think this game is going to be the closest one of the entire college football. I mean, it's going to be right up there with the Texas Arizona State game, I think, in terms of nail biter, in terms of closeness. I think it'll be just as well played. Both teams are phenomenal. I think people are sleeping on Penn because they feel that they've beaten inferior competition. I don't believe their competition has been inferior. I think they've just been that good. And so I could see Penn winning this. I don't know that I'd go so far as to put any money on that. I think Notre Dame is the favorite and
Yeah,
probably
just
should
to
be the
just to
favorite.
give the spread, Notre
Yeah,
Dame
yeah,
is a point and a half. Is a point and a half. Sorry, Notre Dame is favored by a point and a half.
yeah.
Then over under at only 44 and a half. Some could may consider that a lower scoring game, and even in some books they have the money line as even. It could be pick 'em, but they do expect to be pretty tight as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I again, if you are better, if that's your thing, and you're looking for the safer of the two bets, I do think Notre Dame is probably the right call as a program, just historically. This is the situation that Notre Dame rises to. And as a program historically, this is the situation that Coach Franklin does not rise to. So I would say, like this is around the time that Penn usually flames out, even if they make it this far. And Notre Dame has a history of being able to win in these big games. So I would look for Notre Dame to win, but I would also look for Riley Leonard, the quarterback of what's it called?
Notre
Of Notre
Dame.
Dame to have an awesome game. I think that he is trying to make a case for himself as one of the top quarterbacks of the year, and a year with frankly weak quarterbacks. And I think he could do it with Penn, who is a good team. And if you can throw around Penn, then I think that you've got yourself a really good case for being one of the top quarterbacks on the year. So I would expect to see a lot of passing. That's my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. That's my guess.
Even
But
on,
yeah.
I even you can even make the case for Drew Adler,
Oh yeah,
who
of course, he's going to try and pass too. But like I said, they're playing for. I think they're playing for their like, they're playing for more. Penn is, and so if you believe that sort of thing, if you think the
yeah.
team who wants it more is the team that usually wins, I don't. Unfortunately, we did see that with the ASU game, so I don't know that I subscribe to it. But Penn, I think, is the team that needs this more, and I think they are going to play like they need it more. I will say that, which could be an X factor that's hard to kind of consider.
I think one thing to be interesting, especially on a national standpoint, that if Penn State can win over Notre Dame, and I think Penn State might slightly have the defensive edge on this as well, at
Hmm.
least on the passing game. Like they say, the one Camus prospect in this draft is, I'm blanking on his name, their defensive end in Penn State.
Oh, what is his name? I don't remember right now. I'll look quick.
No problem there. But I think also Drew Adler in a weak quarterback class who's had a pretty great year, that if he has a stellar game and takes his team to the national championship and also, makes some noise there, he might declare for a draft. He might actually be considered a first round pick, maybe a top 5 pick with this weak class, especially with how the draft is sorting out, with especially teams at top. Tennessee
Hmm.
picking at number 1, Cleveland Browns arguably can need a quarterback descending on this Deshaun Watson situation. Obviously, the Giants, that the Vegas Raiders as well. That he might be like a Bo Nix was, like a
Mm.
quiet
Abdul Carter, sorry,
prospect.
by the way,
Yeah,
is the
Abdul
defensive end.
Carter. He's supposed to be one of the Camus prospects coming out in
Hmm.
this draft, and I think with that, Notre Dame has had a magical season. That Northern Illinois loss really motivated them,
Oh yeah,
and who knows what could happen here. So I think this is definitely an intriguing matching on both sides. They're going to get Thursday night to themselves. I think it can be a highly rated game, close spread. But yeah, if I had to pick somebody, I might give Penn State the edge, honestly, with that
I,
at
I
plus one
definitely
and a half.
think I'm cheering for Penn State. I will say that. I think I would like to see Penn State win, but I don't know that I could in good conscience. If anyone's listening, like, oh, I'm going to pick who they pick. I don't know
Mhm.
that I would be like, oh, definitely pick Penn State. As much as I would like to see them do this, I don't know that they're gonna be able to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you could argue that too. I think that's actually fair though. So I think we could both pick on the sides. If you do the Notre Dame, if you pick Notre Dame, pick Penn State. I think that'll be an intriguing way to go about it that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it'll be interesting for sure, especially for two storied programs. I think Penn State, if they could get themselves a national championship, just about a decade after the scandal, you know what, and
Hmm.
finally ups and downs and getting to their place, had great players come through the program, Saquon, Michael Parsons, and if they could get themselves into a national championship after all that, switching between a few coaches,
Hmm.
I think that's a good story. And then in Notre Dame, obviously, they are college football, and if they're the ones who can be in a national championship game in this first extended playoff playoff, I think it'd be good.
That would be wild to have a team like Notre Dame be the first team to come through this
Mhm.
12 team, especially with everybody worried. We'll say worried in air quotes, by the way, about the quality of the teams that were in the tournament and whether 12 teams was really the 12 best, all that nonsense
Yeah,
from a few weeks past. To have a blue blood like Notre Dame hold up the national title at the end of the season would mean that the 12 thing works because at the end of the day, the blue bloods that we expect to
yeah,
win, the classics in college football, the brands we know, the teams we trust are still the best teams. It just gives some other teams a little bit of shine to see what they can do in the big leagues. And I think that's great.
I like that. Good perspective there. And why don't we look at the other matchup that'll take place on Friday night, 7:30. We have the Texas Longhorns taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes out in Dallas.
Hmm.
Might as well make that point. Maybe a home field advantage. But Ohio State fans do like to travel, as we
Yeah.
see. And if we look at this lately, right? Ohio State, that loss to Michigan truly motivated them more than ever in these last two games.
Hmm.
Destroyed Tennessee 42-17, and then getting revenge on Oregon in the college football playoff, defeating them 41-21. Then we have
Hmm.
Texas and Clemson. Though they did win by 2 touchdowns, they barely covered their spread, and then almost lost to Arizona State in a 2 overtime slobber knocker, as they used to say. And honestly, they were a 4th and 8 failed conversion away from losing that national championship, and now they're here. So you
Hmm.
have Ohio State with as much momentum as ever, and then a Texas team that arguably scratched and clawed their way to get here, but they are here nonetheless. Right
Hmm.
now, the spread goes to Ohio State at -5.5, with a higher over under at 53.5. So Ryan, very interesting stories between these two, also storied national programs. Where do you see
Mm.
this going now?
This one. So I know I said, and I still stand by this, that the last game will be the closest game of the playoffs. But this one
Mhm.
somehow can either be the closest game or a complete massacre. And the fact that it could be
Either way,
both, yeah. The fact
like
that it,
as in a
oh, no, 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 no,
massacre
no,
for both
sorry.
schools. Okay.
No. Texas is not going to massacre Ohio State. I'm
Hmm.
just going to put that out there now. There is a world where Ohio State absolutely runs the table on Texas, just makes them look silly. I mean, Ohio State, the SEC killer this season, they took out Tennessee when everybody was talking about how no other conference was good enough to be in the playoffs. Then they went ahead and took out the best team in college football as if they played
Yep.
Pop Warner in the Rose Bowl. So, I mean, the reality is that Ohio State, like you said, has got more momentum than, frankly, they probably even know what to do with. They have an insane amount of momentum right now, whereas Texas, you could argue, and I'm not gonna say this argument like for like as my personal opinion, but there were definitely a lot of calls in the Texas game on both sides that were missed or were overcalled, so on and so forth, right? But you can make the strong argument, in my opinion, that Texas won an officiating victory over Arizona State. Big 12 champion, of course, no disrespect, but not necessary, not Ohio State. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, like, you know, Ohio is peaked at this massive, massive like height. And at the very same time, Texas, which was one of the giants, is everyone's like, no, it's gonna be Texas and no Georgia, Texas and Georgia, one of the favorites this entire time. They hit a real roadblock last week, and they definitely do not have momentum. I mean, you could argue they should have lost, and I wouldn't fault you for making that argument because I think you might be right. So I don't think Texas can win this. I don't believe that they're going to win this. I think the question will be, does Ohio add another team to its list of blowouts in the playoffs, or does Texas, who is a good team, figure out a way to keep it close, to make it an interesting game, and to prove that they belong in this spot? Because there's some questions about their schedule, so on and so forth. Prove that they belong in the spot, be a good representative for their conference. Oh, they're the only one left in their conference. Things like that. So I think that's honestly what the game is. I know that Texas is not going to play that way because at the beginning of the season they were favorites. So they're probably going to try and play that way. Like, we're expected to win this game, so we got to go out and make that happen. But I think the reality of like this moment, as the money line shows, is that Ohio has just got unrelenting amount of momentum
Yeah.
right now. And while that could subside before the national title game, it's not going to subside before the Cotton Bowl. I think that Texas has got no shot.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I would take the points with Ohio State at 5.5. I think just the momentum is going Ohio State's way. They're extremely motivated. When everything's on point, they can score and they can prevent other teams from scoring. And
Hmm.
with Texas, that has had their ups and downs at the quarterback position, a running game that looks pretty solid at some points, but can also be stopped easily. And again, I just think you're really going up against an Ohio State team that is very prepared, and even with the possible home field advantage, the home playing in their home state, I think they'll
Hmm.
have all those fans at Ohio State come through. I really
Oh
do.
yeah, I don't think that at this point with the bowl games, there's not going to be a sizable fan differential for either team. You know what I mean? Like, fans
Mm,
are coming to see their team in these bowl games.
yeah,
But yeah, I just wanted to look at the passing for a second too, because we talked about the run, which has been tough for Texas recently, and we saw Texas get run through last week against a very good running back. Or last week against a very good running back, but
yeah, with Scatterboo.
also a freshman quarterback and a very good freshman quarterback in Sam Levitt. He was having his way with the Texas team too.
Yeah.
And again, freshman. It's not like there's been multiple bowl games or anything like that. A freshman coming off a bye week was, able to put up some serious numbers against this defense. And Will Howard is not a freshman. Will Howard will likely be entering the draft after this year.
Hmm.
And will probably, when officially declared, be one of the better quarterbacks in the draft. Um, and so you got that. You've got Jeremiah Smith, who is also a freshman, but is just insanely talented.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't even know how you get that good at football, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
But he's going to be able to do basically whatever he wants. I think. I don't think Texas has any kind of answer for that. And so, yeah, I just don't. I don't see it. I don't know who the big playmaker is. And then you got the fact that, and we haven't talked about this, but this is true. Yeah, we talk about the home field or whatever, but the entire time you've got half the fans there who are going to be cheering for Arch Manning to come in and play as soon as it turns south, and it's
Hmm.
going to turn south fast. First pick, first 4 and out, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as Quinn doesn't convert the way they want him to, half of that Texas fan base is going to start calling for the freshmen to play, and so you don't even have the full fan support really if you're Quinn Ewers when you're trying to lead this team. That can't be helpful. And like I said, he's apparently not even sure that he's gonna go into the draft. He might stay another year, hit the transfer portal. Who
Yeah,
knows?
which
But
would be nuts
I mean,
at
he's
this point.
eligible. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I think that could be something too. As soon as the game goes south, and at some point they will fall behind. I think no one. It'd be crazy to think that Ohio State wasn't going to take a lead at some point. And when that happens, I think that the team could fall apart. Truthfully, I do,
yeah.
because of that.
And I think
Meaning,
they expect with the spread with the over under as well that there's a good chance that Ohio State will be putting up most of those points.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
So I mean, if anything, Texas we have seen them falter. We've seen them have close games. Um, they have to do, lose it to Georgia, like in the SEC championship, almost losing Texas A&M the week before that too,
hmm
and then just there's been a lot of lackadaisical play in this college
yeah.
football play for both games in particular, the
For
Clemson
them,
and Arizona State, and
hmm
for what seems to be such a much prepared Ryan Davis led Ohio State, who people thought his job was on the line. I feel like he secured it for now. I don't know how long his contract is off the top of my
I
head,
mean,
but
I read something that said national title or bust for Ohio State.
mhm,
I think that the margin of victory for these last two games has probably made put that into question. But at the same time,
yeah,
yeah, I think entering the playoffs, there was a strong chance that despite making the playoffs, any loss would be his last at Ohio State, and I think they've played that way. He
right,
certainly coached that way, and the team is talented, so they play to the coach's, tempo. And I don't know. I think the worst thing he could do is think, oh yeah, I locked this in. I saved my job. Now we can just do whatever. I think he needs to keep that mentality of national championship, or I'm gonna get shown the door. Because I should have won one by now, or should have won another one, or whatever. So like, I don't believe he's ever won one. He's appeared, but he's
yeah,
never won one. So he should have won one by now. He should honestly keep that mentality because I think that, as much as anything, as much as Michigan, is pushing this team the way that it's been going, which is again a tidal wave of momentum.
right. So it's all for I feel all the momentum's on Ohio State and all the pressure's on Texas, and we'll
In
see
that
how
game,
they
yep.
step up. But it'll be interesting. We'll see how this goes. I feel we hit our productive conversation on previewing this college football playoff semifinal two matchups. And we will have our reaction to it released to you all early next week. And then we'll preview the national championship next week as well. And then, the 20th, Monday the 20th, will be the national championship. So,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, I'll see you then. Don't forget
Yep,
to check
yep.
out our other content. Don't forget NFL Wildcard Preview, Wildcard Weekend Preview, Super Wildcard Weekend Preview, technically is what
Mm-hmm.
they want you to say. So we got that, a couple tweet caps, and trying some other new alternative productive conversations as well for you all to enjoy. So we'll see you then. Remember, Notre Dame and Penn State, Thursday, 7:30 ESPN. Ohio State and Texas, 7:30. Friday, 7:30 ESPN. And we'll have a reaction for you early next week. We will drop that on Monday or Tuesday. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'll have our preview for you later next week as well. So good stuff
Yep.
ahead and great work, Ryan. And we'll see you all soon.
So yeah.